I've removed the steps from the trailer, and now we're going to build a fourth step with a 7-inch rise to match the ones that are there. And I brought the stairs inside and mounted them on my work table. Much easier to work inside the shop where I've got all the tools handy. I've got a basic layout here of the step framework. It's just light steel tubing, and we're going to weld it up right now. Kind of hard to tell what it is, but in a few minutes we'll have something that's actually going to look like a step. I have the frame assembled now from this lightweight tubing. It's 3/4 wide by 1.25 inches deep, and I found this in my stock and thought it would make up a good framework because it's very light and very strong. It's a steel tubing, not aluminum. So we've got the skeleton framework made up of our new step, and I've also gone ahead and I've made up the bottom step, which is just a piece of pine board which I will seal and paint to match the steps, and hopefully we'll get a few years out of that before we have to replace it. This just fits nicely into my framework. Be screwed from underneath so none of the fasteners show, or there's no area for water to get into the wood and rot it prematurely. Just going to demonstrate how the stairs actually work. This would be on the trailer and slides out. To accommodate the factory-made 3 steps. Now what I've done here is I've added a channel on the bottom that'll accept my new step, and also the channel is tapered on the back side here because as the steps slide in, I want it to clear here, so it just clears and that's put away for travel. Move the steps out, and now we take our newly made step, and this will just sit inside the trailer door. When you open the trailer door, pull out your steps, insert the 4th step, and that's it. It's as simple as that. Now we're going to go to the finishing stage where this will all be painted up to match, and we'll complete our project. Okay, here I've got my new step extension made. I've got some emery cloth contact cemented onto the face of it so it won't slip. And because my wife has struggles with mobility, I had to make a step that she could reach up to. You can see that the height of this step is just a little bit much for someone with mobility problems, so we just installed I'll just install the new step in to give her a little ease of access. And that's it. And the new step will just install inside the door, and when we stop, put the steps out, I'll just clip the new one in place. And she's got easier access to the stairs. Well, we just got back from a week's camping in the wilderness and had an opportunity to try out my new slide-in step. One problem we found lacking with the step is that when after stepping on it a few times when in use, it had a tendency to slide out of the rails that I had built for it to slide into. So one addition was to put a locking pin in it, and now the step is locked in place and can't slide out. The problem we found with our first trial at our camp with my new step is that because the step sticks out and adds additional torque to the existing steps, the the step would bend when you stepped on it. I had to come up with a way of supporting the step from bending when we step on it because of the torque it put on the other steps. So I needed something that was portable, attached to my step so I don't have to go hunting for it. The block of wood worked fine while we were away camping, but the elevation that this step is above the ground will vary depending on our campsite, so I can't rely on blocks of wood being the perfect height. So I had to come up with a system of landing gear, and this is what I come up with. Haven't tested this yet, but I think it'll work quite nicely. What I did is I cut 2 pieces of 1-inch square tubing, and into one edge of it I cut some teeth, and these teeth are designed to bite into the ground, and they will be mounted on the bottom of my step. So let's show you how I did that. Now, what I did is I bored a hole through the back of the step into the front of the step without actually coming through the front of the step here. Didn't want that to show on the outside. And I inserted a 7/16 piece of threaded rod with a series of bolts that will keep the space and alignment for my landing gear. Now I'll show you the process of how I assemble the landing gear. And this is how they work. Turn the step upright and allow the gear to drop down, and they'll find their own level, and the teeth hopefully dig into the ground. Now here's the first field test of our new step with the landing gear that I designed. I designed it to grab into the dirt with the teeth that were cut into the landing gear, so we're just going to try it out here and see how it works. And we got real trouble here because the hard packed gravel just won't support the landing gear. The landing gear worked pretty good at the park we were just at a few days ago because the ground was softer. So we always carry our little floor mat for wiping our shoes off before going in the trailer, and discovered that when the ground is really hard, instead of having the landing gear hit the ground, the actual earth itself, set it on top of the little floor mat, and that grabbed really good, and the problem was solved. Worked like a charm.